politics now, the 9/11 blame game taking center stage in the GOP race for the White House, with Donald Trump and Senator Marco Rubio both pointing fingers, but at different presidents.
The World Trade Center came down during the rain. He kept us safe. That's not safe.
And my argument is, if you're going to ascribe blame, don't blame George W. Bush. Blame a decision that was made years earlier not to take out bin Laden when the opportunity presented itself.
Joining me now, Congressman Issa, member of the House Judiciary Committee, who is a Senator Rubio's supporter. Great to have you in studio today.
Well, great to be on, Gretchen, and I might remind people that just like President George W. Bush, I was brand new on the job when the Twin Towers came down. 9/11 was so quick after that January 20th inaugural that for many of us, we see the perspective of how little time George W. really had on the ground versus the 8 previous years. And I think that's what Senator Rubio really was making a point of. Well, Donald Trump was using the talking points, quite frankly, of the other party.
Yeah, were you shocked when you were watching this or heard about it afterwards that Donald Trump had gone there?
I was shocked. I was shocked that he was saying it in terms that I remember, to be honest, Democrats on the Hill using. But I also was pleased. I was pleased.
Why?
That the other Republicans on the stage came to George W. Bush's defense, not because they necessarily it was in their best interest, but because it was simply the truth that this kind of a statement, the reign of George W. Bush, or it was all George W. Bush's fault, was absurd, and it was the kind of absurdity that previously Donald Trump has never been called on.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at it with 20/20 hindsight. I mean, every investigation and report that came out said exactly what Dick Cheney is going to say right now.
For Mr. Trump to suggest that, in my mind, is way off base. He clearly doesn't understand or has not spent any time learning about the facts of that period.
All right, so learning about the facts of that period. I mean, it's one thing to look back and say, as Donald Trump says, well, I was always against the Iraq War, although there's really no proof that he really was when it started in 2003.
Well, we're all against war, and we'd all like things to work out better. But the people that are running this time are talking about the last 7+ years, about what happened when we left Iraq and allowed the Shia essentially to not keep their constitution, to deny the Kurds.
So it's important to move the story forward.
It really is, and I think that's where Senator Rubio is getting into the details of what went wrong and how do we fix it. We're not going to fix Iraq without bringing justice for Kurds and Sunnis. We're not going to fix Syria without bringing justice. There's a host of countries like that need to be dealt with and dealt with as an adult.
Well, speaking of Senator Rubio, he's leveling some criticism now against the failures of Congress and the Senate, and he's even calling for term limits for you, Congressman Issa, and everyone else in Congress. Do you agree with that?
Well, first of all, I've reached a point in my life and career where term limits look pretty good. And second of all, we have term limits. My chairmanship of the Oversight Committee came to an end based on voluntary term limits, and rightfully so. There's a lot of talent, and there's somebody else doing that now. I think Senator Rubio is right to say that Congress needs to step up to the plate. It needs to fulfill its obligations, not the least of which is something that Senator Rubio worked very hard with me to try to do, which was hold this administration accountable for their wrongful behavior, Fast and Furious, Benghazi,
right.
The IRS with Lois Lerner. And so he's learned firsthand that the House and the Senate have to do more or get out of the way and let somebody else do it.
Yeah, no doubt. The American people certainly want them to get more done, right? And have the approval rating go up. Congressman, great to see you in person.
Thank you. Well, you get the approval rating you deserve if you're lucky.
All right, we'll leave it there. Well, stocks looking